Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are doing a deep dive deck on Saskia's Snack, or the Saskia the Unyielding, I should say. It's a food deck, so this is my four-color, what is it called? Dune, right? Dune. And we're doing a food deck here. Saskia the Unyielding. So she is black, red, green, white. And so she is a Dune commander. Unsurprisingly, Dune has no blue. Hey. Makes sense, right? Just like the movie. Anyway. She's a Vigilance Haste 3-4. A 3-4 for 4 mana, not great, but Vigilance and Haste go a long way, right? Especially since she's big on giving these attack bonuses. Maybe that's the wrong term to use, but anyway. So as she enters the battlefield, choose a player. So you choose one player. Choose the most problematic player, or who you think is going to be the biggest problem at the table. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. So you can very easily make this into like a political thing, right? Especially if usually the problem at the table is hopefully not you. And if it isn't you, then it's probably shared by not just yourself, right? It's not like you have a problem and everyone else is, usually not at least, is okay with it. Everyone's going to have like the same problem, player, or getting out of control or whatever it is. So you could say, hey, if you let me hit you for, this much damage, we can knock this person down and put them into like the danger zone. The danger zone. Anyway, yeah, so it is, okay, this bonus damage that goes to the chosen player is combat damage, right? You can't do like burn damage and just count all of it double on that other player. So yeah, it is specifically for combat damage. That is one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, the color challenge. Again, this is me just getting through the color challenge here. I'm getting pretty close. So we've got, again, all of the two color combinations, or the dual colors, are done. And again, everything but green for monocolors. And just about done my three color combinations. I've got Abzan and Sultai left. Both are two of my favorites, so I am pretty pumped about that. I think Abzan is actually the strongest overall three color combination color, but I'll probably talk about that when I'm actually doing the video. We've got only two of the four colors left. Then, yeah, there's 2 3 colors, 2 4 colors, and then colorless. And green, sorry. And green. So 6 left to go. Getting real close. Again, this is between the deck check and my deck reviews and my budget deck techs. So yeah, the deep dive decks. Just like this here. So it is getting so close. Oh boy. Once again, talking about Saskia the Unyielding, so the 4 color combinations I think are more difficult. Mechanically, they're more difficult, at least. You get kind of a lot more focused, actually, with a lot of 3 color combination ones. You kind of get, like, more focused, whereas the 4 color ones tend to just be kind of all over the place. There's too many options, almost to, like, have a real central theme to a color. Like, Esper. I think Esper is something where you're like, yeah, I know what Esper does. I know what to expect. So if you sit down at the table with someone and they've got an Esper commander, you're like, yeah, okay, Dimir plus white basically is what you're doing. I know what to generally to expect. I'm sure there's plenty of exceptions to the rule kind of thing, but like our last one was on Bant. I did a deck checking on a Bant commander. That was definitely not the standard Bant. So yeah. Thank God for that, because Bant is not good. I'm not going to start on that again. Anyway, so here we go. Yeah, using the food tokens is what I'm using to kind of tie this whole theme together. All right, so we're really focused on food tokens. I did something similar with Breya. I used clue tokens to tie it all together. Breya is, of course, did have blue. What was Breya lacking? I think there's no red and no. Is it no green? I think there's no green in Breya's color combination. So yeah. here we go. Yeah. This is we're getting into kind of like, this is something I want to make a different video on. There's different types of commanders, and one of the major distinctions is, like, is it a commander where the whole deck needs to be built around the commander, or does the commander kind of just like enhance the deck? So yeah, if you look at a lot of mechanics where it's like, it's really focused on, say, a very particular mechanic, even like to a certain extent, Caslia. The deck still works without her, so maybe this isn't a great example, but the real kind of like bonus you get out of it is having her on the battlefield. If she's on the battlefield, you're missing out on a whole bunch of the value. This is like extra value, but doesn't really care if she's on the battlefield or not, right? Frankly, if they take her off the battlefield, it's kind of an advantage because you get to recast her and choose a new person when she comes back in. So if anything, it's a bit of a threat taking her off the battlefield. So yeah, this is, yeah. Always make sure you're choosing the most problematic opponent. And remember, sending her back to the graveyard can actually be an advantage because you get another shot at picking. So yeah. This deck price is $37.89 right now. It is. These change so fast. It's very frustrating, actually. I keep having to go back and like make adjustments to try and keep it under my, I'll say under $40, and then it keeps like bumping up over 40. It's like 45 all of a sudden one week, so I have to like go in and make edits to get it back down. So I'm basically not going to keep doing that because it's, as I build more and more decks, it becomes more and more implausible. Anyway, this is $37.89 now, not forever. So if you want to get it, please get it soon because these take off. I don't think I've ever seen one of these budget decks actually decrease in value. They increase and usually increase pretty quickly. Again, the design objective is use food tokens to keep the advantage and take over the game with Saskia's ability to troubleshoot. Again, you're gonna like be using Saskia to like get rid of the problem player, and also to kind of like almost a political thing where, yeah, you can, I'll do damage to you, I'll only do this much, you let it through, and then yeah, we'll knock down that player that is a problem. So yeah, this is determined using the TCG player market price. That is usually the lowest one. Keep in mind, people have complained that the shipping cost is very high sometimes. Apparently, if you cut down the number of sellers, that is how to keep the shipping cost lower. So if you're using a bunch of different sellers, that's when the cost can really go up. I've heard it like up to $100 shipping. But yeah, just cut down on the number of those. And apparently that helps. I still have never actually ordered this because I don't think you can order them to Korea. Or if you could, it would cost like a crazy buttload extra. So I have not done that. Anyway, also I'm posting this deck list on moxfield.com, so check it out. Part 1, Saskia the Unyielding. So this is, I'm calling this section about the commander. Usually it really is about how the commander like interacts with the other cards. Saskia doesn't really care as much about the other cards, so in this deck it's kind of a weird one. I think this is more like how the deck works. So she can enhance that, but she's not required for it. So it's a little bit of a weird one here. Once again, Saskia can incentivize allowing your attacks to get through. This is one of the main things to keep in mind, is just like, hey, if I hit you for this much, then the other player loses the same. Do you want to do that? Making deals is definitely an option. Opponents may be willing to pay life to whittle down. Again, yeah, that political thing I've been talking about, kind of a lot. I'm going into that a lot more than I meant to, but yay, whatever. High synergy cards. A lot of this is talking about more like the food aspect of it, but anyway, that's alright. 1 green white for this 2/4. Sam, loyal attendant. Sam! Alright, anyway. It's a Trailer Park Boys reference. Maybe people won't get it if they're not like Canadian or older. But anyway. Partner with Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit. So that's really nice because as soon as you cast him, you can go into your deck and like pull another Hobbit out. We've got a Hobbit sub-theme in this because Hobbits are just great with food. So yeah. We will definitely be able to either use Frodo to pull out Sam or Sam to pull out Frodo. So yeah, hey. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a food token. Just one bonus food token every turn. That is very handy. And activated abilities of foods you control cost 1 less to activate. So your sacrifice thing is going to be 1 mana instead of 2. That is going to be useful in all kinds of ways. Because we've got so much food synergy in this deck. I wanted to do it on 1 slide, and then I was like, oh wait, I can't only talk about 5. I have to do 10 to even start. And then we talk about tokens, and then we talk about artifacts. So kind of just keeps going and going. Anyway. Gua here, Greatest of the Eagles for 4 and a white is a 5/5 flyer. Not bad. At the beginning of each end step, okay, each end step, sorry, you may, if you gain 3 or more life, again, sacrificing 1 food gains 3 life. That's why that's so important. So even on your opponent's turns, you can do this. Create a 3/3 bird creature token with flying, and whenever this creature target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. So you're making 3/3 flying tokens. You can make 4 of these every round, and they're going to give another attacker flying. And if those attackers get through, then they automatically do damage to that problem player. Oh my gosh. Like, the synergy there is insane. Guahir also has that if you attack with Guahir and another creature, it gives that creature flying. Basically, it gets on his back, yeah. Like, okay, the Eagles, yeah, the Eagles. Why didn't the Eagles do everything? Anyway, Night of the Sweets Revenge. I actually did a short on this one recently that people weren't crazy about. I was like, this is such a good card. You're crazy. Anyway, 3 and a green for 4 CMC. That's what I meant to say. So when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. It makes a food token. And it allows you, it says, foods you control have tap to add a green. Your foods are now mana rocks. Crazy, but it makes one when it comes in. Remember, they don't get summoning sick, they're artifacts. So if you have 3 food, which is super easy to do, you cast this, it makes a 4th, you basically get your mana back immediately. You can tap them for 4 mana, it costs you 4 mana. And that's even like, if you only had 3 food, you're probably going to have a lot more than 3 food. So even the first turn this comes in, you're probably going to be making like a pile of extra mana. But if that wasn't good enough, we're going to keep going. For 5 green, sacrifice it. Creatures you control get +X till end of turn, where X is the number of foods you control. So we can just keep pumping out these tokens very easily, especially with a lot of life gain triggers. We're going to be pumping out these tokens, and you can give all of these tokens, many of which are flying and already like 3 3s or 4 4s with flying, and they're going to get +X until end of turn, equal to the number of foods you control. You make a lot of food. So you can tap a bunch of foods to activate this, sack it, and then all of your creatures get this massive bonus. That's one. I didn't even include that on the win con list, but it's a win con. A finisher, whatever you want to call it. Golem, Obsessed Stalker. So for 1 and black is a 1/1 with Skulk. Again, Skulk means anything with higher attack power can't block it. So pretty good evasion, especially if you're going to combine it with like maybe one of the Eagles, giving him flying and Skulk. It gets pretty hard to like keep blocking him if he gets more and more evasion. Anywho, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent dealt combat damage this game by a creature named Golem Obsessed Skulker loses life equal to the amount you gain this turn. So, oh yeah. Again, it is, yeah, your end step. I'm making sure it is at the end of your end step. So you could just, like, damage something once, or damage another player once, and then you're going to be able to, like, just gain life by sacrificing foods, and then they take that much damage. Remember, that is not combat damage, so Saskia's ability does not, like, carry that damage over, but still can be used as basically a finisher. Like, you can sacrifice food and turn that directly into damage. Oy. Treebeard! I love me some Treebeard. Anyway, Treebeard, Gracious Host, 2 green-white. I feel like Celestia Treebeard is so on the nose, it's like perfect. But anyway, for a 0/5. Shouldn't be a 0. There's my complaint right there, but Trample, Ward 2. Okay, when Treebeard, Gracious Host enters the battlefield, create 2 food tokens. First of all, 2 foods. 4 mana, 2 foods, not too shabby on top of having a 0/5. Whenever you gain life gain trigger, yeah. Put that many +1/+1 counters on target halfling or tree folk. So he can just put them on himself if he wants to, and we've got so many halflings. Again, when we say halfling, what we mean is hobbit. That's actually the origin of halfling, is that, like, they want to include hobbits, but they couldn't get, like, the rights to it, so they called them halflings instead. And so all of these hobbits now being called halflings are, like, almost like going back and reversing. Yeah, it's very weird, I think, but anyway. So yeah, just so much synergy. We've got, I don't even know how many are halflings. I shouldn't call them hobbits because their creature type is halfling. We've got just a pile of halflings that you're just going to be throwing all these +1/+1 counters on. And yeah, remember, it says whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on target halfling. So if you gain 3 life, it gets 3 +1/+1 counters. It's not like every time you gain life, you get 1 +1/+1 counter on something. It is per life gain. That many. Big difference there. So you're going to end up with, like, just some monster hobbits. Rocco Street Chef. Okay, this is not a hobbit or a halfling or whatever you want to call it. So green, red, white. Oh no. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Not your business. It's not your business. Anyway. Naya, right? Okay, anyway. At the beginning of each end step, each player exiles at the beginning of your end step, each player exiles the top card of their library. Until the end of your next turn, each player may play the exiled card or the card exiled this way. So you are giving everybody extra cards. This is like a group hug thing you're throwing in, but it sounds like a downside. Let's see. Whenever a player plays a land from exile or casts a spell from exile. Again, not limited to the cards he exiled. Any player casts any spell from exile or plays a land from exile. So those Cascade decks or those decks using plot or anything like that, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra value because this triggers off of that as well. Alright, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. More +1/+1 counters, and create a food token. So if they're casted for exile, you're boosting up all your units and you're creating a whole bunch of food for your opponents doing stuff. The exile, the card things may sound like a bit of a downside. It's not, because yeah, basically if they don't use it, they lose it, right? They have to exile another one at the end of that, or at the beginning of your next. At the beginning of your next end step, they're going to exile another one, and that one, if they didn't use it, it's gone for the game, right? It's just exile. So yeah, definitely puts a bit of pressure on them to actually just do it and get you your value. Eleanor Gardner. So for 3 and a green, this is a 2/4. So when she enters the battlefield, create a food token. Yeah, sure. At the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed a food this turn. So at the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed even just 1 food is all you have to do. This doesn't care how many food you do. You can sacrifice 10 food, it's still going to do the same thing as sacrificing 1 food. So that's something to keep in mind, is that the number of food on your turn doesn't matter for this. It is only going to happen once. But search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So this is just like you want to keep sacrificing food and get extra value, and here you're turning that sacrificing food into ramp. Oh boy, this is the most expensive creature in the card in the deck by over $1, I think, and it is. I almost cut this a couple times. It was like, yeah, no, I'm keeping it. Okay, so part 2, the plan. These are our deck objectives. Like, how do you win with the deck? We've actually got a good number of ways to do that. Okay, ramping and fixing. This is always step 1, especially in a 4-color deck. The fixing becomes very, very important. Food. We actually have a double section on food because there's so much. And finishers. I was calling this win cons before, and someone pointed out that they're not really win cons. Like, they make wins pretty easy, but there's a clear path to winning, but they're really finishers. So I'm going to call them finishers from now on. Ramp, fix. Okay, Eleanor Gardner, we just talked about. Yeah, just getting a land for sacrificing food in the food deck. Yeah, please. Verdant Confluence. So for green. This is the main problem people have with it is right there. 6 CMC is high. It is. But this is a modal spell that lets you choose 3, and you can choose the same one more than once. So, Again, put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. So you could do that 3 times and give it +6/+6 if you wanted to, or do it once and do something else 2 other times. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. That might be something that just like gives you exactly what you need. It lets you treat your graveyard almost as like pseudo card draw, or almost like a tutor type of thing. Most things that get sent to your graveyard are things that people removed because they were like a problem, right? Especially permanents that end up in your graveyard. Someone wanted it to go there probably, so you probably want it back. And finally, most importantly, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. So you could go get 3 basic lands, put them into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Or any mix of that. Ramping 3 lands for 6 mana is so worth it. It's just this is like the most underrated card, I think. I don't know. Barracks of the Thousand. Okay, this is the transformed side of, what is it called? Yeah, Thousand Moon Smithy. So you can tap it to add a white, and if you use that white to cast an artifact or a creature spell, using that, you create a gnome soldier artifact creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts and or creatures you control. You're going to have a lot of those food tokens are artifacts, right? Artifacts and creatures. The gnomes have the power of those 2 put together. And you just have to cast any artifact or any creature using mana from this to do it. I've never actually used that before, but that would be insanely powerful. Pit of Offerings. This is one of my favorite ones that I talk about all the time. Again, play the land, exile cards from graveyard, so it's graveyard hate, and the color of those exiled cards are the colors that it can tap for. So you could exile something from your own graveyard and 2 other graveyards if you want, or 3 from one graveyard. But if you exile your own thing, you might get every color you need right there, right? So yeah, this will just be, Graveyard Hate Mana Fix. Just such a crazy combination. Inspiring Statuary. This is under $1 still. This is one I always expect to keep going up, and it doesn't, but 3 for this artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have improvise. So just non-artifact. Everything non-artifact has improvise, meaning you can tap your artifacts, and it pays 1 colorless for it, including sorceries, instants, pretty much anything. This is, again, almost like Knight of the Sweet's Revenge, where you're making all of your food tokens into mana rocks. They're basically mana rocks at that point, right? You do still need probably colored mana to pay for the pip, but that's about it. And you're set. Like, so much cost reduction, like, Food. Okay, remember we're doing 2 foods, so Knight of the Sweet's Revenge already talked about this. Food become mana rocks. Another thing that basically makes food into mana rocks. Sam Loyal Attendant talked about him. Reducing that cost of the activation by 1 is very nice. Also, making a food every turn. I guess he's cooking breakfast, right? Pippin. Okay, so once again, pay 1 and tap him to create a food token. And yeah, sacrifice 4 food tokens. Other creatures you control get +3/+3 and have haste until end of turn. Especially, we're going to be making like tons of token creatures, besides the food tokens. And you can give them all +3/+3 and haste just out of the like left field. Sacrificing 4 tokens is not hard. I wish you didn't have to tap for this, because then you could do it multiple times, but that's okay. Also, he partners with Mary. So if you cast him or Mary, you can go get the other one. Yeah, great. Astrid Peth. I keep thinking Perth in my head, but anyway. 1 and a white for this 2/2. Whenever she enters the battlefield or attacks, create a food token. Just another way to make food tokens. So whenever you sacrifice a clue or food, she explores. So she's going to just keep exploring. And what does that mean? Reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land. So if it's a land, you're guaranteeing a land drop. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then you may put it back or into the graveyard. So it's kind of like an explorer effect almost. Except you get +1/+1 on her. And then you can decide if you want to actually draw it or you want to get it out of the way. Just throw it into the graveyard and draw something else. Unless it's a land, in which case you draw it. Just very useful. Experimental Confectioner. I love that name. I think it's the first time I said it out loud. Fortuna Black is a 2/3, so when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Yeah. Whenever you sacrifice a food, put a 1/1 black rat creature token onto the battlefield with this creature can't block. They can't block. I guess there's a downside, but you're going to be sacrificing food probably every turn, right? 4 1/1 rats, especially with ways to like boost them up and like give them +3/+3, turning into 4 4s. That's when they get scary, right? Second breakfast. Okay. Our second part of our food, unsurprisingly. Camilla the Seed Miser. Okay, other squirrels you control have menace. Sure. Sorry, 1 green-black for this 3/3 with menace. And yeah. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more foods, another 1/1 squirrel. Again, so we can make a 1/1 squirrel, 1/1 rat, and all of our rats are going to have menace as well. So, just so much. And for 2, you can forage for a +1/+1 counter on each squirrel you control. So if you do manage to make a whole bunch of squirrels, this is going to let you just get a whole bunch of extra value out of that as well. Just pretty easily throwing a bunch of counters on them. Peregrine Toque. Okay, so if 1 or more tokens will be created under your control, that many plus a food token are created instead. So yeah, every time So you're making a rat or you're making a squirrel here. Peregrine is also going to make a food, which you can sacrifice to make a rat and a squirrel, which will make 2 more food. You see where this is going, right? Sacrifice 3 foods, draw a card. What's really good about that is that it doesn't require tapping. So really, all of those food tokens you have, even if they're mana rocks, what you really need is just like card draw, you got it. That's your card draw sorted. Savvy Hunter. So Savvy Hunter can attack or block and makes a food every time. Also, sorry, I should go over the basics there. So 1 black-green Golgari for this 3/3. So also sacrifice 2 food tokens, draw a card. So basically the same thing that Peregrine Took does, but at a better exchange rate. So yeah. 2 foods for a card draw is good. Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan. So 3 and a white for this 3/4. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan, and create a food token. So she's going to get quest counter, make food. Quest counter, make food. Again, hopefully you're like doing at least some damage every time you have combat, and you're just going to keep making food. Anyway. Whenever you sacrifice a food, target creature you control gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of quest counters on her. So yeah, those quest counters become really important because yeah, they are just going to add up. You can give 1 creature a pretty massive bonus with that. So even in, this, I guess the first turn maybe not that impressive, but every turn after that is going to keep getting bigger until she's like a major threat. Trail of Crumbs for 1 and a green. Get this a card advantage 1. So when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. That was nice. And sacrifice a food. You can pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Choose a permanent from among them, put it into your hand, and the other one on the bottom of your library. So basically card draw / sorting. It is only permanent, so if you draw 2 like instants and or sorceries, you get nothing. So there is a downside. Not very likely in this deck. If you do that more than once in a game, you need to shuffle better, I think. Anyway. Just real good. Especially like if they went to exile or something, that would be yeah, it's on the bottom of your library. If they went to exile, I'd be like, yeah, that's a bit risky. There's almost like no risk here. It's 1 mana to like get an extra card basically, and you get some selection of the card. Finisher number 1, Commander Damage. Always first Commander Damage. Cranial Plating, Fire Shrieker. Cranial Plating is incredible because it's a 2 mana artifact equipment, and for 2 black mana, you can attach. It has an equip and an attach. What's the difference? Attaches instant speed. So you know that attack is getting through. You have 2 black mana open, great. Throw this on any creature and just a pile of extra damage, which with Saskia means it's going to just like do a pile of extra damage to the next player. Also, if it's on your commander, that's all of your food is going to be +1 damage. Fire Shrieker Fire Shrieker. It's not naked. Fire Shrieker is going to give her double strike. She starts as a 3/4. Keep in mind with double strike, all you need to get to is 11. So yeah, Cranial Plating, it is in an artifact, so it would be +1 damage by itself. Really, you just need, what is that? 6 food, and she's one-shotting people. 6 food is not a lot. It's not hard to do. A finisher number 2, Evasive Combat. So we've got Gua here. We already talked about him. Giving another creature flying. And Banquet Guess. This one is nuts. Okay. I only didn't put it on food because it is here. So X green white. Affinity for food. So basically, every food you have pays for 1. X1 is 1 food, 2 food, 3. You probably have like a good stack of food, and that's all going to be X cost. And he does have trample. Oh. Banquet guests, they do have trample. Anyway, enter the battlefield with twice X +1/+1 counters on it. Twice. So for each food you have, this is going to get double the number of +1/+1 counters. Even having 5 food, I think, is a low expectation. That's going to be a 10/10 trample. Not to mention, for 2 sacrifice of food, it gains indestructible until end of turn. That you can make indestructible anytime you want. A trample, anytime you want, pretty much it will be indestructible. Just massive, massive boy. Anyway, yeah. Ooh. Just unblockable. Again, you're going to have lots of food. How do we use food? We also have Feasting Hobbit. 1 in a green for a 2/2. So this only costs 2 for a 2/2, but when he enters, he has Devour Food 3. For every food you sacrifice when he comes in, he gets +3/+3. Part 3, Combos and Tactics. So this is getting the most value, kind of looking at a lot of our sub-themes and stuff like that, and how it works in the deck. Life gain, very big one with food, obviously. Leyline of Hope. So this is 2 white for this enchantment. If you start with it in your opening hand, you get it. You just play it for free. Ooh. If you gain life, gain that much life +1 instead. Some of our triggers are 4 instead of 3. Maybe only one of our triggers, but anyway. That's going to have you all set right there, right? As long as you have at least 7 more life than your starting value, creatures you control get +2/+2. You can quite easily end up with more life, right? This isn't a life gain deck, really, but this you can... If you especially if you've got Sam Loyal Attendant out, and yeah, you're just sacrificing food, you want to pretty much sacrifice a food every turn, you're probably going to end up gaining like 12 per round. That's going to end up with you with much higher than your starting value. Anyway. Witch of the Moors, 3 black for this 4/4 with Death Touch. And so at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, life, just any amount of life, each opponent sacrifices a creature and you return up to 1 creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh my. Especially if you got if you're playing against someone that has like a Voltron or something. This is a nightmare card, right? Because they just have to sacrifice. Indestructible, Hexproof, Shroud. Forsack doesn't care about any of those things. The downside, of course, is they get to choose. So if they've got a bunch of 1/1, token creatures, they're just going to do one of those and really not be a lot worse off. But against the right deck, this is just absolute catastrophe. So yeah. And Recursion for you, which is always nice. Syndicate Heavy. 2 and Orzhov. So white or black, 4 CMC for this 4/4 with Extort. Again, Extort, every spell you cast, you can pay a white or a black. It will drain 1 from every other player and you gain 1 life. Very nice little extra, life gain trick. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 4 or more life this turn, investigate. Yeah, there are 2 of these 4 life gain triggers. This is the other one. So yeah, you're going to make a clue token every time as well. And we've got a lot of effects like Peregrine Toque, where if you make a token, this will make another token. And we've also got effects that are make a token, deal 1 damage. Make another token, deal 1 damage. And yeah. Hey. Guahir we talked about already, but remember, yeah. Guahir is also each end step. Okay? So you can do this on each end step. Also Syndicate Heavy, each end step, not only yours. Angelic Accord at the beginning of each end step. Oh, sorry, wait. Yeah, oh, yeah. Angelic Accord is once again each end step. If you gain 4 or more life this turn, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So a 3/3 flyer and a 4/4 flyer every turn for gaining life. Especially like with Syndicate Heavy, you can like do that and do his extort, and really any one food sacrifice will do it, or one food sacrifice and bonus life gain from Leyline of Hope. We also have Heron of Hope, I think is what it's called. They both give you 1 extra life gain every time you gain life, and they'll be your 4. So yeah, we have more than one way to do that, or sacrifice 2 food and gain 6 and you're done. Halflings, again, Treebeard we already talked about. Feasting Hobbit we talked about as well, but Treebeard and Feasting Hobbit, remember, if something does manage to get like slightly more damage than Feasting Hobbit, Treebeard can probably like boost him up. Golem, very nice little trick there. He's a 1/1 is the real downside. You kind of don't want to give him a bunch of +1/+1s because then his Skulk doesn't work, but you also might want him to be survivable as well. So it's a situational one. Banquet Guest we talked about as well. And Samwise Gamgee for a green and a white. Another Sam. He's a 2/2 for 2. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food token. More food. Always good. Sacrifice 3 foods, return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, historic is artifact, legendary, or saga. We have no sagas. We have quite a few legendaries and some artifacts though. So yeah, that is going to be very useful. You're definitely going to get some, again, just more things to use food on. Hey, can't complain. Tokens. Keep in mind, this is on top of everything we've already said. Angelic Accord we talked about with the life gain. Mirkwood Bats. So whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. When you make a token, they lose a life. When you sack the token, they lose a life. Oh. In the food deck, that is going to be a busy trigger. Nadir's Nightblade. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Notice it says leaves the battlefield. So even if someone like manages to exile all of your food tokens, this still triggers. So yeah, that is going to like kind of be a safety net. A nice like also life gain effect for you. Well, I guess yeah, every time you sacrifice a food, you're going to gain 3 life, and then the 4th life from that trigger. So that's another way to get your 4 life gain. Fey Offering at the beginning of each end step. If you cast both a creature spell and a non-creature spell, create a clue token, a food token, and a treasure token. You got a good amount of card draw and a lot of like ways to cut costs and things like that. So casting both on your turn is not like a creature and non-creature spell. It doesn't say like instant or sorcery, just non-creature spell. Very, very doable. So this is probably going to go off more than once. And it makes 3 every time. Finally, Balin the Haymaker. Oh my. This is like the ultimate token card right here. Again, so if you tap 2 tokens, make 1 mana of any color. Another way to turn your tokens into mana rocks, basically. Tap 3 on tap tokens you control, draw a card. So ramp, card draw. Done. What? Tap 4 on tap tokens you control. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on him, and he gains trample until end of turn. Recently I pointed out, none of these require that he taps, right? So you can just keep doing it. So if you've got, say 12 food tokens, which is very doable, tap them all, and you can give him, what is it? +9/+9, trample, and so with +9/+9, he's a 13/12 with trample. Just all of a sudden. With Saskia, that's a really nice combo. Artifacts, okay, Again, we talked about the Barracks of the Thousand. Making those gnomes is huge. Reckless Fireweaver. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, it does 1 damage to each opponent. Each. So that's 3 damage every time you make a food token. Not too shabby. This is, Oni Cult Anvil. This is, whenever 1 or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield. Again, leave the battlefield, not are destroyed or go to the graveyard, just leave the battlefield. Create a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. So you're going to make these 1/1 constructs, which are also artifacts. And all kinds of other triggers are going to go off because that, like Peregrine Took is going to make a food. And because it's a token entering, they might take damage, or they might, just so much. Then you could tap this, sacrifice an artifact. It deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. Another way to gain that 1 extra life that you might need, on top of the 3 life gain for your triggers. Agent of the Iron Throne. Commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. Once again, tokens do go to the graveyard, but once they're in the graveyard, they cease to exist. So all of those food tokens are setting this off. Mary, Warden of Isengard. Every time you, 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. This only happens once each turn, but you're going to be able to make food tokens almost every turn. So it's another way to get another bonus token, and that token is going to set off a whole bunch of other triggers that are just going to make you more tokens and deal more damage and just get out of hand. Whitling. So this is all about reducing their life total, your opponent's life total, gradually, and when you stack them all up, it's not so gradual, I guess. So, Mayhem Devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target. So what's really nice about this is that, first of all, any target, also, it's anytime anyone sacrifices, not just you. If an opponent sacrifices something, you get to deal 1 damage to something. So it is going to add up again. Nadir's Nightblade. We talked about her already, but each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Really nice effect. Geoper Aether Grid for 2 in a red. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. This is 1 damage to any target you want, and just tap things. So this is on the battlefield. Right before your turn on the previous player's end step, you're going to just tap all of your treasures and pretty much change up the board, or take a player out, or drastically reduce them. It is going to do some work. Marauding Blight Priest. We actually have a few effects like this. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Sacrificing food gains you life. Make them lose life. I believe there's 3 similar effects in this deck. Dina Soul Steeper. Once again, this is another one of the effects that I was just talking about, where turning that life gain for you into hurting everyone else. We also have a vampire that does the same thing. So if those 3 are out, every time you sacrifice a food, each opponent is taking 3 damage for 2 mana. Basically 3 lightning bolts for 2 mana. So your paths to victory. This is basically finishers / win cons here, but I didn't want to make a whole big list of them, so I'm just going to put them down here and things to keep in mind, right? So Glory, again, making all of your, if it's in your graveyard, pay 2 and a white to give protection from any color you want to all of your creatures. So those creatures can attack without being blocked, and then that damage is going to apply to the other player that you chose. So this is another one where if you've got it down to 1 player is already eliminated, this is going to let you just topple them. The gnome soldier I already talked about. Again, these are going to end up being huge, and you've got ways to give them evasion, like Gua here and things like that. Angelic Accord, just making a whole bunch of tokens, and we've got ways to boost the tokens. We already talked about that, like Pippin sacrificing, I believe, 4 foods for +3/+3 to all of your creatures, and giving them haste. So you're going to like make all of these tokens by gaining life and things like that, and then you're going to be able to like make them just massive. They're 7/7 flyers, and the birds are going to be 3/3 or 6/6 flyers. And yeah, hey, that's a win con, or a way to win. Naya Charm, once again, tapping down someone else's board so they can't block you. As long as you're down to like you've removed that one player, or you want to get rid of the 2 players and be down to 1 player, you can do this. Knock out someone, and that damage is going to carry over to the other player, and you knock out 2 players. This is going to let you eliminate 2 players. If that ends the game, great. If it doesn't, it simplifies things. Ruinous Ultimatum. Okay, this is not cheap. This is what, 7 mana? Destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Destroy all non-land. Right? So artifacts, enchantments, yeah. Non-land. Yeah. Kind of resetting everyone back to 0, and then you get to just do whatever you want to do. Once again, very easy to take the game from there. Alright? Hope you enjoyed it. Take it easy.